Todd Richards is the culinary director of Jackmont Hospitality, where he has overseen the development of chef-driven restaurant concepts such as One Flew South, which really put airport dining on the map, and Chicken and Beer in airports from LAX to Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson. He gained the attention of critics and foodies alike when he helmed the kitchens at the Shed at Glenwood, Pig and Pearl, Rolling Bones Barbecue, White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, the Four Seasons Hotel, Ritz-Carlton, and the Oak Room at the Seelbach Hotel, which garnered the prestigious AAA 5 Diamond Award for Excellent Restaurants during his tenure. Todd's debut cookbook, Soul, A Chef's Culinary Evolution in 150 Recipes, won the 2019 International Association of Culinary Professionals Cookbook Award for American Cooking, and he followed that up this year with a second cookbook, Roots, Heart and Soul, the story, celebration, and recipes of Afro cuisine in America. Todd is a native of Chicago, but he has called Atlanta home since the early 1990s. Please welcome Todd Richards.
It's funny standing here and hearing that I did all that because I just felt old real fast. I got here in 93 and people talk about how bad Freaknik was, but I came for Freaknik and never left. So I think I am a good product of Freaknik, to say the least.
Awesome. Well, and I'm going to say, you say that you're feeling old, and these days, he's just come in from Charlotte, and he's got this event. You've got another one tomorrow. He is a man about town, and everybody wants a piece of Todd Richards because of the amazing work that he is doing. So talk to us about your cookbook. And I had to tell you, this is very neat. You wrote this with the help of Amy Congdon.
Yes.
And Amy, and you'll see her name on the cover. Amy is actually the editor for the Savannah Morning News. She has helped she's also worked with numerous culinarians writing their cookbooks. She really specializes in it. But I had a lovely conversation with her the last time I was in Savannah, chit-chatting all about the time that you and her the work that you did together on the book and some of the places that it took you. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to embark on this cookbook and some of the things you learned.
Well, my first cookbook, Soul, was really more introspective, and I really wanted to define soul food in a different manner, in which that, it's not just a pinch of that or a pinch of this. It's really sophisticated cooking when you think about soul food and understanding. I mean, if you can make chitlins taste good, or, that to me is a hallmark of someone that can cook, first of all. And then secondly, people think things like fried chicken is, it's so easy. You just put it in the fryer or you put it in the oil. Fried chicken is one of the hardest things to cook properly. There's only temperatures you can only work with. It's either above 280 degrees or below 350 degrees. If you go below, 280, it's going to be soggy. It'll be cooked, but it'll be soggy chicken. If you go above 350, then it'll be crispy on the side, and you bite into it, and you think, we're in church. I can't say that. All crap will break loose because you get raw chicken on the inside. So it's really sophisticated. And then you think about it from a diet standpoint that it's mostly vegetables. That you start with. Meat was a luxury to have, and I wanted to tell that story. But then I wanted to broaden the story and actually got really interested in other people because I told my story kind of in the first book, and I really wanted to go back and say, how did we get here? How did all this come from? So really, the book started in West Africa. Then we worked our way through the Caribbean, came up and followed the migration, to New York, Chicago, and then we went out west. There were some stops along the way, like we went through Mexico as well, because a lot of the mother sauces in Mexico comes out of West African cuisine, like mole. The dish I did yesterday in Charlotte was we did chicken mole with blue corn tortilla tacos. And we made pickles. We made Haitian cabbage, with the purple cabbage. So, we really try to blend the cultures together. And also the other reason why, politically, I wanted to stop a lot of the nonsense of conversations about, the foods being different, the discussions between black and brown. When you get all these things together, we're really talking about the regions of which these foods come from. and then how they develop, like you look at Dominican Republic and Haiti, the recipes are the same, but the peppers are different. The techniques are the same, but we're talking about the rice is different. So really, it's really a way to bring people closer together through food and have this underlying political tone in it, but then tell the story of people that I never met before.
It's really interesting. Von Diaz was here earlier, and so she has her Isla's new book. Her background is Puerto Rican,
correct.
And her first book was really a more introspective, personal discovery kind of thing, her roots. And then in the second one, instead, she's gone global to really think about island cuisine on a more, outward look.
Absolutely.
So tell us some of the stuff that where exactly did you go? Tell us about some of the cities of people you met.
It was so crazy because we booked a lot of travel and then COVID happened. So we were, stymied for a very, very long time. We couldn't travel a lot. So then, we actually kind of shifted the book a little bit because I couldn't get to the people, so I had to talk to the people. So that's why there's so many people who contribute to the book, like Chef Stefan from Haiti. Erica was in my first book, who was here earlier today. But still I had to go back and talk to her because of North Carolinas and things like that. So we really went back and started talking to people, and then we went to travel. I got to go to Africa because Amy didn't go with me on that trip. She was tied up writing another book. But then we went to New York, we went to Little Haiti, we went to Puerto Rico, we went to DR, we went to Miami. So we went to all these really great places to understand that. But then I got to go back home to Chicago because I really wanted to understand this migration period a little bit differently now that I know the background on it. When I look at my dad's family who came out of Louisiana's and my mom's family who came out of the Alabama's, it really just showed me the different understanding of why my mom and dad got into arguments about food. Like my mom would put butter in rice, and my dad being from New Orleans, he would have a fit if it was butter in rice. Like, you don't do that, So I grew up with two, pots of rice, as a kid, and it was great because, the butter rice next day was for rice pudding. The rice next day was for red beans and rice, So there's these things that I just learned about my family, which really tells a great story of food. Like, here it is, most people don't know, I started at Kroger. My culinary career was at Kroger. I was a butcher right there in North Lake and everything. And here I am thinking, I'm the baddest butcher in my entire family. Then I talked to my aunt, I said, no, your great granddad was a butcher, in Chicago. He did all the hanging meat and stuff like that. So it got me to understand these things through travel. And this place in Chicago, I knew as a kid, but I didn't know as an adult. And it really got me to help me see that in a different light.
I'm kind of curious why what brought you to Atlanta in the first place, and what is it about Atlanta that has you, that you've stuck around?
It was transferred from University of Illinois to Georgia Tech. I was going to physics. And then I needed a job, started at Kroger, and never looked back. So when I was in high school, I went to Hyde Park High School and 2 days a week, and University of Chicago 3 days a week. So by the time I got to my sophomore year of college, I was done. I didn't want to see another professor. I didn't want to sit there anymore. I was trying to find something else, to do, to feed the creative side as well, because my parents put us in music school as a kid. So I had this creative side, but my family were nerds. My mom was a biologist. My dad was a data processor. So we had this really intersection of food, music, and nerdism, which I enjoy. Anybody calls me a nerd, that's a big compliment. If you call me a nerd, that's great. You talk about my parents, But, I got here, and then, I really just started working in kitchens, work with Tom Catherall, of course, over at Tom Tom's when he had that, and then got to meet Chef Evans. And when I met Chef Evans, he went to it's the Four Seasons Hotel now, but it wasn't. When I got there, it was the Occidental Grand, I remember this, then it turned to the Grand Hotel, then the Doubletree Hotel, over the Grand, then the Four Seasons. So I went through all four of those hotel changes, but it was great. I mean, it was just great. What kicks me around in Atlanta is the culture and the ability to be an entrepreneur. And the diversity of the city. I mean, and the economics of the city. And then the foodways of the city. I mean, the urban farmers we have here are just unbelievable. You know, Lovers Loves Farm, you know, Riverview Farms, you know, when you talk about, you know, these farmers that we hear who are so committed to the agriculture part of Atlanta, I mean, you can't find that anyplace else.
You are, how long are you in your career right now? 35 years?
Let's see. So I started there 32 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you've had so many different types of positions. You know, as the culinary director for Jackmont, which is, you know, based pretty much at the, it's airport hospitality, you're in a really unique position to train the next generation of chefs. And as somebody who covers that part of the scene for Atlanta, what are some of the things that you're excited about for you know, talent that is undergoing training, and what are some things that concern you?
You know, the great thing about Atlanta, so, you know, let me back up a little bit. So when I first got here, there was 4 master chefs here. It was 3 certified master chefs and 1 certified pastry chef. And this was at one of the, I can't remember which, Cherokee Golf Club. That was happening there. That was the only place in the world that ever had 4 in one city. So there's a legacy there. And then understanding, you know, my background in hotels and understanding the Ritz when you had Gunther Seeger here and people like that, you know, it really just showed that, you know, Atlanta could be really on this high level. And then Atlanta decided to follow Charleston, which we made a big mistake, food-wise, because we became a shrimp and grits town really fast, even though there's no water here and anything like that. you know. So we became that town really fast, and this really happened during the Olympics and things like that. You know, and then you had this influx of out-of-towners come in, like, you know, Colicchio came here with Kraft and things like that. So you had this, you know, New York crowd coming here and thinking they know everything about Southern food better than anybody in the South, which they failed miserably. You know, I was at Kraft, so I know we failed bad, you know? And then when you go from there, you look at now you have these young cooks coming up. They have way more opportunity than ever before. The education that not only you get from culinary school, just on like YouTube and cookbooks and things like that, they have way more opportunity to be way better than me. I think that's the good thing. I think the bad thing is that we've made real estate so expensive that it's very difficult for them to open their own brick and mortars. Food truck culture here is very difficult to do. I understand the regulations from the health department, and I agree with, you know, 80% of it, but it's really difficult for them. And then to raise capital, you know, is really difficult as well. It's always hard to start a new business. So I think that what the city can do is really have more incubator spaces for culinarians, young culinarians, and even older culinarians, the people that retire that try to get into their business, have a strong mentoring program, because where most restaurants fail in the first 3 years is that they don't know how much this thing costs. I mean, we're talking about some restaurants, you know, I have Soul, you know, Food and Culture over in Krog, you know, I keep it open because it's family, you know, and, you know, that restaurant makes no profit. It actually breaks even every single year that we've had it. But, you know, I have family members who work there. I had, you know, cousins that come back from college who need a job to go work there. So I kept it open for family. So we can have more of these incubator spaces, you know, to really help people become, you know, in restaurant business. I think that would be a better way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about this dish that you're gonna make today.
So this dish, the shrimp mojo, you know, it's you know, for a person who's allergic to lobster, I cook a lot of shrimp. I don't know how I got, you know, blessed with only being allergic to lobster, but shrimp to me are very fascinating items to cook because A, they absorb flavor very quickly, B, they don't take a long time to cook, and C, most people universally just like shrimp, you know, and I enjoy it. A lot of citrus. This dish is really inspired from that travel into the Caribbean area, that PR, DR, Haiti, Jamaican, you know, area. But I kind of modify it. One thing that I really enjoy about learning about is sour orange, you know. And here it is, you know, I went to Catholic school as a kid, and you get the lunches and everything, and the chili con carne, all that was good, but they always had the fruit sometimes, and the oranges be sour, just really just bitter and things like that. And it's like, man, I can't eat this, And now, I learned about this so much. It's like, man, like I could have saved all those oranges, and I could have squeezed them, and I could have took them home. I could have made all these dishes in my head. It's like I just threw away like a whole bunch of dishes in my mind. But just learning those things about how marinades work, with very light seafoods, and really also the ability not only to use, one orange, but use 2 oranges, which I never really thought about it from that standpoint. And the use of lime, we use a lot of lemon here, in this country, but lime is still, a little bit, on the side of where we cook. So, understanding that combination of double citrus, 3 citruses, and sometimes even 4 citrus fruits to me was very fascinating. And that's why I want to do this dish today, to really talk about that, because every part except for the pith of citrus fruit you can use, whether it's the zest, you can squeeze it, you can cut it, you can dehydrate it. It's such a fascinating way to understand how one region of the hemisphere really permeates throughout the entire country.
And so when you were doing the research, like who did you reach out to? How were these contacts made?
Well, as a chef, we get to hang out with the cool kids, a lot, So it's really just call one person, call another person. Hey, I want to learn this. I want to, I want to understand that. And then, just go in there and just sit at the bar and just sit and eat. Before I even talked to anybody, I went to their restaurants and ate. And I really wanted to do so because I didn't want the pretense around them telling me. I just wanted to understand it first myself. And then once we did that, it was so much fun, just calling people. Stefan, who's in the book, he really helped me out a lot. Like we went to Little Miami and then went to Little Cuba. And right there, this happened literally during the day that they were having the uprising in Cuba. And they had a whole parade and everything going down there at Cafe Alsace. It was incredibly, just mind-blowing how, this whole community stopped everything they were doing. Everyone was cooking. And just to sit there and absorb it and then understand why the coffee is sweet. I understand that, that because of their political situation, they don't necessarily have the best beans, to make coffee. So they're adding this sweetness, to it, in order to make it palatable. To understand the pastries, and understand the influences, everything that came from around there, in order to make, this part of the region what it is. It was just one of the most fascinating things that I've ever been a part of. I say to me myself, it's like my Bourdain moment, just watching him, as all his travel shows, and he sees them in the culture. And it's like, man, I am sitting literally in here watching them, wave the flag and celebrate this uprising that's going on, and everybody's out there eating, drinking very, very strong. I can only drink 2 cups of that coffee, though. I think I drank. I was up half the night, Anyway, I don't sleep much anyway, so 2 cups for me is going to go well. But it was just amazing how we were able to just absorb ourselves in that culture, and really, and everyone, I have to say this also. They were just passing plates to everyone. You walk by, don't care what you look like, you could have been the man in the moon. They were giving you a plate of food. And to me, that is pure hospitality. That's what we need more of right now.
So was this your first trip to Africa?
It was my second trip to Africa, but I was really more in the northern part to go in the western part. I would say it's something that I have to go back and see it differently. I went there with a purpose and fulfilled the purpose, but I left there pretty sad. I really did.
Tell us about it then.
Because I didn't know. Like I thought I knew. I know what they teach us. I know what I see. I know what I see on the internet. But I just didn't know. Just to stand and put your feet in the sand is something totally different, And when you see how, as a chef, how all the foods in this North, Central and South America, a lot of that came out of there. And to understand that the taste of things are the same, but they're spiritually different. To watch, a person like Pierre Tom, who's a really good friend of mine, when he was on Bourdain, and, watching, here it is in our country, you talking about uni or sea urchin, that's really Japanese. When you go over there, people are out there spearfishing, uni on the Barbie right there, little berry spice and things like that. Like, to me, that's the best way to live, and there was no hang-ups about, where I came from. All the questions that I kept getting was like, did you do your genealogy? Which I did, and I know that, most of my ancestry comes out of Nigeria, and to get into that area and to sit with chefs, who are highly talented, highly celebrated, and who are cooking food that just melts in your mouth, and they take it to their mom's place, and their mom just feed you. You walk in the door and you just eat, and I don't eat that much, but I couldn't stop eating, and that to me, and when I left, I was like, man, it's no one's fault but my own. I should have been here a long time ago. Yeah.
Okay, tell people what you're doing. Am I holding you up?
No, you're fine. I'm good. Well, they got to buy the book.
Because we only have 20. We have 20 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Well, if they buy the book, they get the whole thing. But I'm just making. I'm making the marinade for the shrimp, and it's really all the citrus in here, a little bit Dijon mustard, and I'm going to go a little bit faster because I don't want to not cook the dish. I think that's what they want to see. So. Yeah. So I'm going to just marinate these shrimp. These are head-on prawns. It's just like with crawfish, most of the flavor is in the top portion of the shrimp. I know some people don't like things looking at them, but I don't know. To me, it's like going on a bad date. You got to look at them anyway, So that's kind of the way I see it,
Okay, so and then there's a second part to this dish, right? So technically it's grilled shrimp mocha with black bean puree. You're not going to do the black bean puree, but then there's the toasted rice with cumin seeds and mint. So what is that about?
Yes, so we, the great staff here made the rice already for me, but we're going to toast it. The great thing about this rice, for me, the cumin and mint. The mint makes things fragrant, and a lot of times they just get thrown in desserts and things like that, and it's not. It's really just this fragrance that comes out of mint, and it just brings dishes alive. It's like when you eat pizza, you might put red pepper flakes on. It's like it's just that burst of aroma that comes out, or even with good garlic, fresh garlic. And I'm really glad that they got me real garlic. A lot of times you do these demos and they give you the chopped one already, which is sometimes I use that. I'm not going to say that, but really, when you have that smell of that fresh aroma of garlic, and that to me is very, very special. But I grew up in Chicago, and my dad worked at a defunct store called Montgomery Ward's. Oddly enough, we just got a catalog from them. I was like, you guys have been out of business for, I don't know how we got a catalog from you guys, but my dad worked at Montgomery Ward's, and so he worked 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. He did all the data processing at night. And so we were always near Chinatown. Because that's where it was, right there. Anybody seen Good Times? Oh man, John Amos just passed away. That like broke my heart, But where that area was, I'll be quick. Cabrini Green and Good Times is right there in Montgomery Ward. This is right north of Chinatown, and so we would go there. So my family ate there so much that we got really close with the family restaurant, and then their kid had to work in the restaurant. So I didn't want to sit out there with my parents, tell these boring stories, so I would go in the back and work with him in the back. And so making fried rice to me was something that I just learned how to do as a kid because I watched him work with his dad on the wok. And so toasting rice to me is really important because the fragrance that comes out of rice, and that's what we're going to do here. So, man, this thing heats up good. I got to get one of these for the
everything is top notch here.
Right, yeah. So we're just going to press the rice in here. I do have to give a shout out to Lodge as a sponsor because I have 9 Lodge pans at home. Well, I have 8 because my daughter just took mine. She moved into her apartment, so she took one of my pans, which is fine. You know, somebody's got to take them. And so we're just going to press this in here. And we're going to let it sit, and that's it. We're not going to move it. We're not going to peek, you know. It's not like a kid on the first day of school. You wait for him to come back home on the bus, you know, you're looking out through the shades. You don't do that with food, you know. You don't want to peek through it. So we're just going to let it sit there and talk. And while we're doing that, we're going to do the shrimp as well. I want to make sure we get to the questions if anyone has it.
What's the ideal marinade time for the shrimp?
I say I cook at home with music. I don't in the restaurant, so I say 2 songs, so 7-8 minutes. You know,
Okay.
you know that's
Love it.
That's kind of way I kind of figure it out.
Do both of your books have a playlist in them?
Yes, you got to have playlists. I mean, food is entertaining, you know. So and also I do it because I want people to cook with rhythm. So if you have a song playing, like you don't chop, you know, you don't chop like. You know, you chop in rhythm, right? So I put a playlist in the book, so when people are listening to music and they're chopping, they can actually follow the song in order to do so. You know,
Nice.
so that's that nerd quality I was talking about. You know, only people that have that much time to sit on there around and think about stuff like that.
I'm curious about another ritual of yours, or maybe you tell me if it still is one.
Okay.
Do you still have a glass of champagne every morning?
A shot of espresso and a glass of champagne every morning. Yes, absolutely.
And tell people who don't know why you do this. I think it's a very beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, you woke up, so you got to celebrate the day, you know. I mean, so that's champagne is for a great celebration. And then you got to get your day started. I mean, that's really, and to me, nothing's promised, man. You know, nothing's promised. You know, when we wrote this book and I had COVID, I went in the house on March 30th. I didn't come out to May 15th. So I understand and subsequently have had it 3 times after that. So there's absolutely nothing promised to anybody. So you got to celebrate, you know, and food is part of the celebration of life.
Yes, nice. And then I do have another question for you.
Okay.
What's your next plans? What's your 3rd book?
You know, so the publisher, which is a really great publisher, decided that this book was too big. Which it was. One thing about working with Amy and myself, we would go and get all the research and find everything. And when we finished, this book was over 600 pages.
Oh, wow.
And the publisher said, we're not producing a 600-page cookbook, you know? So the whole California section where we kind of stopped is going to be the next book. We're going to go to California. And because California is its own. You know, it's in the United States, but it's still its own culture, you know, and, you know, you look at, especially in the 1940s, food movement in places like LA and Crenshaw and things like that, you know, I really wanted to understand that better and how do we get there. And that's really what the next book is going to be about, you know.
So are you actually splitting it into one on California and then another one on a different part of the U.S. or other?
You know, we want to go to California and then we want to go south into Mexico. And I don't think we're going to get to Hawaii per se, even though it's fascinating to me because, you know, a lot of people don't understand the southern influence on Hawaiian food and things like that. And so we really want to try to get there, but that might be a little bit farther reach for us. So it really just depends on how we're going to figure it out. On this rice, when you do it, I kind of like to shape it a little bit ahead of time. So I'm just going to take the spatula and just run it around here. I mean, it's so fragrant already. I think I need a little bit more oil in there.
And is that like, I'm going to call it like a socarrat?
Yeah.
You know, the crusty stuff?
The crust.
Is that desirable? Is that what we want?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We want all that crunchy bits, all those things like that. We definitely want all of those. And I'm not following this recipe per se exactly.
None of them have really today.
Well, I'm going to tell people they're guidelines. You know, recipes are guidelines. You know, you don't have white rice, use jasmine rice. You know, basmati rice, you use white rice. I mean, use what you have. You know, you don't have black beans, you take the same recipe and use it with red beans. Actually, the red bean puree is in Soul's recipe.
So if you had to pick a few recipes from the more recent, what do you want us to cook? I mean, you want us to cook the whole book.
Yeah.
But pick a few. What do you?
I would like people to go to the banana pudding section and do the debate that I had with myself. Because I put 2 banana pudding recipes in there because I didn't know which one, because one is from the north and the other one's from the south. And I wasn't going to be the one who determined which one was right, So that to me is one. The chicken yalla, the precursor to lemon pepper chicken, I think is really fascinating. Every culture has a lemon chicken, but this one to me with the onions and Szechuan seasoning, that to me is a great one. The quail tacos.
I'm gonna interrupt you here. Szechuan seasoning was brought up earlier for those of you who were in the Von Diaz one. That's a big, terrific seasoning flavor pack.
Von is such a fascinating person too. I mean, she is. I met her at the IACP Awards, and man, these shrimp are beautiful. I usually tell people too, like we're using a grill pan here for the shrimp. Once you turn them over, especially if you're doing electric stove at home, once you turn them over, you want to turn it off. You don't want it to keep cooking. You don't want ping pong balls. You want just nicely grilled shrimp. Yeah. I mean, this is we're over here running our mouths, and we almost had this whole thing done, in really quick amount of time.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes left, so we're gonna open it up to all of you, and if you have a question for Todd Richards, please raise your hand.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, yourself?
Doing well. So you started the rice in the cast iron pot. Mm-hmm. Is that you normally do that with the finished product, or do you cook the rice in there first?
So you cook the rice first. You want to cook the rice, let it cool some, mix all the ingredients, and then you want to put it into the cast iron pot and just sear it till it's crispy and everything like that. It does require a good amount of oil in order to do so, but it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I use cast iron pan. I use non-stick pan, whatever you feel comfortable with, in order to get there. But it's just really important that the rice is kind of cool first before you put it in there. If not, the rice is going to cook too fast, and then it's going to raise a lot of gluten in there, and then you're going to have a real hard time getting it out the pan.
The great debate, do
Yes.
you need to devein shrimp?
Wait, say that again?
Do you need to devein shrimp?
If they need to be deveined, yes. So it depends on the shrimp and depends on how you peel them. Head-on shrimp, typically, if you did it the way, and I really should have went through that, but I kind of pulling some of that vein out as I'm taking the tails out. I say that, but of course, growing up in Chinese cooking, those tiny shrimp, you're not going to get those deveined. I mean, they're just too small. Alternative shrimp to that would be rock shrimp. Rock shrimp are about the size of a nickel and everything, and they are deveined. So, but if you eat bologna, I mean, I don't know. What are you complaining about then?
Hi. So
Yes.
my question is about some of your restaurant concepts.
Yes.
And the ones that you've done in the airports have been completely amazing. So what's been your inspirations for bringing a little bit of that fine dining experience?
So One Flew South happened because at that point in time, Atlanta only had one international terminal, and Korean Airlines was that terminal. And when they got off the airlines and had to transfer flights, they didn't want to go to, typical fast food places and things like that. So Delta Airlines actually came to Jackmont Hospitality and said, hey, we need you to create a restaurant, for these guests. Then I was at the Okram in Louisville. I think it was my second Beard nomination. And so they called me and asked me, well, what do you think? And I said, well, you have to still it's still Atlanta, so we still want to represent the South, but bring in these other international flavors. And that's what we did with One Flew South. And some of the things that we've done there, being the only James Beard nominated restaurant for airports in the world. But the odd thing that most people don't know is that right after 9/11, of course, we had issues where we couldn't use knives, in the restaurant. So we lobbied TSA in order to get real knives, butter knives and stuff back into the restaurant, because we couldn't charge what we charge for a steak and give you a plastic knife. Just wouldn't work. I wouldn't pay for it. So where are we going?
Yep, over here.
Wow, we got rum in church. All right. Hey, Holy Communion happens which way?
For
Yes.
a person who doesn't eat onions and peppers, what would be a nice substitute for a lot of the things that you have in your recipe book?
A person doesn't eat onions. Is this an allergy or aversion?
Aversion.
Aversion. All onions and all peppers, or just some? Okay. And what is the aversion? I'm curious.
I don't know what it is. I just can't. Like, it's just I can't eat it.
Okay. So there's, eat fried foods.
Yes.
Like fried green tomatoes and things like that, right? So typically those are seasoned with onion powder, granulated onion. So I would say that typically for one full onion, it's about approximately 1 teaspoon of dehydrated onion. So you can substitute that in a lot of these recipes where it calls for that. In marinades, I would go half of that, because as it reconstitutes, it'll bloom really, really quickly. As far as peppers go, there's a lot of good dehydrated pepper products out there. However, there's no substitution for the correct ones. But in particular, I think there's a green pepper that you would really probably enjoy using. It's poblano pepper. And so it doesn't have those same qualities as just conventional peppers. It actually has a lot more flavor and depth of flavor. And you really, when you try to using poblano peppers, it will help you out, really understanding that. A lot of times though, when people don't like peppers, it's that vegetal quality that you're getting from there. It's really strong and everything like that. That poblano peppers, even though they are a strong pepper, that vegetal quality really goes away. That's what I would recommend. But I also recommend coming to the restaurant one day, and I'm going to feed you a whole bunch of peppers and onions until we break that habit of yours. We got to cut that out. I didn't expect to hear that today, so don't forgive me for giving you a hard time.
Hey, Todd. My
Yeah.
wife and I probably had more meals at the Shed at Glenwood than any other restaurant
Oh
in
man!
Atlanta over the years.
Oh boy.
And I have one question.
Yes.
When do we get the Slider cookbook?
Man, that restaurant. I don't miss a lot of places that I've worked. I compartmentalize those things a lot, but that one was really special. I lived off of it was Confederate at that time, but it's Atlanta United. That when I lived there, and that restaurant, I could walk there, I can get there easy. That's one I kind of missed the most. It was a neighborhood restaurant, but everyone from around the city will come to that restaurant. And subsequently, Kevin opened Gun Show across from there. I think Cindy and Todd, who were the owners, at that time, that became their partners, were really groundbreaking for neighborhood restaurants at that time. And so on Wednesday night, to tell everyone this story, so they did slider night every Wednesday night, $3 sliders. And when I got there, they had this whole thing of sliders, which were great. But I said, let's just take the 4 best ones, and then let's allow the cooks and chefs and opportunity to do more. So then we had this whole other menu where it's all creative stuff that we would come up with. We did duck banh mi sliders, the pork belly sliders, shrimp sliders, fried green tomatoes with onion jam sliders, things, I'm poking fun at my friend over here, but we just, so that's a good That's a good one. I had to think about that one.
All right, tell us what you're doing. We can see that you're pouring a
Yes.
sauce.
Yeah, so that same marinade, I took half the marinade, mixed it with Dijon mustard, mayo, some seasonings and everything like that. And so it's just really just giving the shrimp some sauce and everything like that. There's oregano. Hey, it's 4 o'clock. I mean, the mic's probably. But, there's oregano, parsley, cumin, all those things in here. I wish I would have spent a little more time explaining to you all, but again, it's only 45 minutes, and I typically run my mouth too much. So,
Other questions?
A quick explanation about the difference between southern and northern banana pudding.
meringue.
Okay.
Who has meringue? Wafers, levels, crushed, uncrushed. I can go on but size of banana that goes into it. Is it thin slice? Is it thicker slice? And then in my family, it starts a whole different conversation about custards. How are you making the custard? Who made it? Which recipe? Which aunt has it? So I can give you a whole scenario on that too. But really, it comes down to meringue, no meringue, wafers, where they go, crushed or not crushed on the wafers.
All right, I'll read up on
All
that.
right.
I've heard you mention a lot about recipes as guidelines, not like strict rules.
Right.
For your red beans and rice in the Soul Cookbook, if you had to pick one element that you would say is like a non-negotiable, what would
Well,
you say?
so Soul is written a little bit different. Soul is written by ingredients. So there's like 9, just in collard greens, there's 9 different collard green recipes in there, from traditional collard greens to collard green fried rice, to my dad was very frugal. When we cut collard greens, he would put them in a tub, salt the stems and everything, and wait, and we make collard green pickles with them. So it's really done by recipe, and it's probably one of the few books that are done that way, because I think that's a good way to go to the grocery store, because you're going to pick up things and figure out that way. The recipe that I probably go to, the most in there is the fried fish with homemade hot sauce, and that's actually my mom's recipe from a kid. And my mom made hot sauce as a kid, and that one I put in the book. And really, cornmeal, just understanding how crispy it is. She did it Friday. And then the parallel, and I'll be quick, the parallel between both of these is really because fish and spaghetti is a Chicago or Midwest thing. And then when I went to the Dominican Republic, they had beach spaghetti, where they would take spaghetti to the beach. And I was like, well, in Chicago, that's what we did all the time. We go to the lakefront, bring fish and spaghetti to the beach. So that one really was a thorough line in between. But that recipe with my mom is probably the one I go to the most. It's one that's probably published the most. As well, that one, and then the Black Eyed Peas for New Year's is the one published the most as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, you're going to finish up with the rice?
Oh, yes. Oh, I turned it off. I'm sorry. I don't even know if it's ready. Look,
Okay, but that's all right. But actually, I'm wondering, why did you put this? Was that just serving as a lid?
Well, one is getting a little smoky up here.
Okay.
And secondly, I turned it off. It's probably may not come out well.
Okay, well, just tell us the idea.
Yeah. Was it toasted? Yeah, so cause it can get a little bit messy. That's why I put the lid on top of it, and also to press the rice. But you really want to get that crispy layer on top, so you have that nice layer of crunch. It's toasted. The cumin seeds are already toasted, but it makes it more fragrant, and then you get the mint, a little bit crispy as well. So
Nice.
that's really what it does.
So, and how would this? I see you're going to be working on the onions, but what's
Yeah.
the general plating here?
So to me, I mean, it's just the shrimp are beautiful. They're still a little bit, just slightly under, because I think the flavor gets lost there. And then I'll grill the onions, fold it back in the marinade, put it back on the shrimp, and that's just the way you eat it.
Okay.
This one, to me, this is not a knife and fork dish. This is eat with your hands, 100% all the way. So
It looks delicious. It
Yes.
looks delicious.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
thank you all so much.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Todd Richards. I have to tell you, when I was speaking with the organizers about this, Ted Nelson, who is back here and helped to get all of these people signed up to do this, said we could never not have Todd Richards on the Decatur Book Festival stage.
Yeah,
So
I
if
mean,
there's going to be a festival, it's got to be Todd too.
And just to give a shout out to Erica Council as well. Erica did all the biscuit recipes in Seoul as well. And Erica is a great friend of mine. She just got Best Chef for Food and Wine.
Yep.
You know, so this thoroughfare of food intersects a lot of people, but we all are good friends. And I'm share the stage with all those people, and especially my great friend Erica Council. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
So thank all of you for coming out today. And Todd will be actually over outside around the corner under the tent signing copies of his book. You can purchase it there. You can also purchase the books back at the corner there. And we'll hopefully see y'all back next year. Thank you.